Testing. Alright. Chapter 2, component testing. Non-resident training course, Navy Electricity Electronic Training Series, Module 21, Test Methods and Practices. Chapter 2, component testing. Upon learning objectives, upon completion of the chapter, you'll be able to do the following. Explain the component testing of individual electronic components, identify the various methods of testing, electron tube, identify the various methods of testing, semiconductor, identify the various methods of testing, integrated circuits, identify the various types of the testing, battery, the data, character, identify the various methods of the testing, radio frequency, actuator, resistive flow, identify the various methods of the type of the testing, fiber optic devices, introduction to the component testing. It's imperative you be able to troubleshoot with the equipment with the component level in the majority of the cases of the Navy detectors and expect to the troubleshoot with the identified fault component with the chapter of the component testing will acquaint with you with the alternative method of testing various components with their parameters that quickly aligns with the Navy the mission for the concept of the operation explains why we in most cases must be able to troubleshoot with the fault the component level of the ship may be with the self-sustaining unit with the when deployed. Self-storage capacity with the primary consideration more shift the limiting factor of the storage bulk item the electronic modules is ready spare therefore practical to store only individual component with the component the great number of the equipment types of course limits for the larger replacement modules available during troubleshooting testing electronic tubes. The equipment you with the vacuum tube with the faulty tube with the responsible for more than 50% of the electronic equipment failure with the result of the test of the electronic tube. It is important you determine the condition of the tube, the result of the tube, and the identical tube, knowing the good, known to be good for the questionable one. However, in discriminating substitution of the tube to be avoided, lessening the less of the following the two reasons: the tuning with the circuit may result of the tube that may not operate properly with the high frequency circuit, even if they perform well with the low frequency circuit. Therefore, your knowledge of the tube testing devices, their limitations, as well as the current interpretation of the test results obtained, indispensable for accurate with the rapid maintenance. Because of the operating capability of the design factor of the features of the tube, the demonstration of the electrical character of the tube, the measure through the character of the comparing them with the representative values established with the type of the tube. The tubes read abnormal. High and low with respect with the same with the suspect practical standardization will take into account the limitation of the tube test and predicting actual tube that performance of the practical circuit with it must be unnecessary with the use of the complex calculated test equipment laboratory character for the most applications. Testing a single tube with characteristics good enough to determine the tube performance. Some of the most important factors affecting life expectancy of the electron tube are listed below. The function of the tube, the deterioration of the cathode coating, and the decreasing the emission and impregnated emitter of the leg, aging of the filament type of the tube, the deflected supply, seal of the permanent any of the air to the leak of the envelope of the oxide, and being served with the internal short circuit of the open circuit of the caused by vibration excessive voltage. In the average receiving the tube with an overdrive with the operative continuously maximum of the can have the life of up to 2,000 hours before the filament of the explain for the contraction of the tube during the process of the heating. The cool electrodes may lean with a stab with which cause the excessive noise microphone and develop the other electron tube with the defect with the cathode heater to the leakage with the non-uniform electron emission with the cathode of the common tube with the defect with the contributed with the 50% of all the electron equipment failures. For this reason, you should immediately eliminate with any of the tube known to be faulty. However, the avoid with the blind random replacement of the tube with the pressure barrier. The most common of the cover of the tube failure with the open filament. The advantage of the tube the defect is often obvious. The filament with the opening of the glass envelope of the tubes. You also know the brighter than normal cherry red glow over the plate with the plate current. Excessively also with the tube that becomes gassy with the arcing with the curve between the electrode will probably have the visual indication metal encased tube that can be felt with the warmth. Determine the heat of the heater is operating with the tap of the tube while the operating when the circuit will reveal the aerial indication of the loose elements for the tube of the microphones which produce the loose elements. Alright, most tube is extremely fragile subject with the damage due to the shipment. The belief of the tube would never be an assumption that the new tube is good because it is new. You should always use the test tube before installing them. Substituting test tubes before installing them. Substitution method. Substituting the tube known with a good condition. Simple method of testing questionable tube with the high frequency circuit with the tube with the substitution that can be carried out with a logical sequence to replace with the tube with the time with the conserve with the effect of the difference for the electrode with the capacity with the substitute with the tube with the tuned circuit. Tube substitution with the test method that can be used with the locating more than one faulty tube within a single circuit with the two reason with the one bolt with the radio frequency amplifier tube with the intermediate frequency amplifier tube with the effect with the receiver with the replacing either one with the not correctly with the tube would not correct the trouble of the tube. If and all of the tubes are replaced, there is no way that you know that the tube with the word defect with under these conditions with the test equipment they be designed with the test the quality of the tube to save the valuable time. Note the simple tube with the following section IEEE and ANSIC for the inside front cover there you with the define with the various type with the set for the anode plate with the current with the anode voltage with the anode resistance the book voltage A and the anode voltage with the anode current and the anode resistance over there some of are the same as the voltage and primary and the resistance primary with you find you will see elsewhere. The module of the term, the term of the anode and plate interchangeable. Electron tube. The representative of the field of the electron tube is designed with the test all of the lower power tubes, evidence shown figure 2.1 with the tube testing conditions, cover the possible, the actual tube of the operating condition of the program of the pre-punch cover the switch for the S101, figure 2.1 for the right to automatically program the test tube condition with which they actually cover the card component with the front panel with the test with the provide with the strategy for the most frequent you for the cover for the F9 shown with the contained with the operating and for the bracket of the storm with the technical manual, power cord with the calibration cell with the check with the meter, then short tab for the calibration car with the blank car with the seal hand punch over the 1-2 show with the 2-11 show with the electron tube test the front panel with the pre-punch car with the fully insert with the car with the S switch 101 the micro switch the actuator the energized solenoid cover the card to switch with the contact with the complete with the circle with the card switch with the 1/8 with the single pole with the single throw switch with the range with the 17 row with the 11 switch with the each for the row the card is used switch is closed with the absence for the hole with the car required with the actuate the switch the meter the M301 code contains 4 scale of the upper scale with the graduated 0 to 100 direct with the numerical reading of the 3 scale the 3 lower scale with the number of 1, 2, and 3 are reading leakage quality of the gas respectively. Each number scale will include the green and red area with the marked good and place. Inside the shield directly in front of the meter of the 5 neon lamp of the DS301 DS305 with the indicates short between the two tube elements. The number 2 push button MP6 issue for the transducer and issue for the other quality test for the described later with the number 3 push button MP7 issue for the test of the presence for the gas and issue for the envelope with the number 4 push button with the MP8 with the issue for the test for the dual tube with the neon Neets S203 lights of the push button number 4 with the UV measurement is to be used the L11 tube shocks are located on the panel with the plus of the tube pin with the strain for the S and 9 pin miniature tubes. The power on and off single spring return toggle switch for the S105 at the turn of the test for the energized line relay with the pilot light DS107 light for the relay curl for the above the power on and off which is the 5 fuses 105 101 52 F201 F202 protected test circuits have the not protected by the other mean with the 5 neon lamp that indicate that they have blown fuse 102 and 103 protect both sides of the power line. Auxiliary compartment, the group with the auxiliary control with the hinge panel with the U with the special tab of the calibration with the tab of the tube with the control of the label and single calibration with the resistor 152, 155, figure 22 U with the special test card with the adjusting regulation amplitude with the single voltage with the push button located with the cathode action as switch 302D with the U with the making the cathode active the tab for the push button to press the DS106 on the filament panel with the light of the filament voltage with the tube with the end of the test reduces 10% result of the test or reading the chain with the reading of the numerical meter scale. 2 show the auxiliary compartment. Push button SO302 with the parameters resistor 401 and 405. U with the element with the transducers for the bridge circuit with the actual tube with the operating with the pressing S302 with the remove of the grid signal will allow for the zero bandwidth to be made with the pen amount with the other depending on whether the tube with the test is pressure passing higher low plate current. Lamp DS108 with the front panel light with the S302 with the E with the press with the push 302C with the U with the check on the grid to the cathode short with the sensitivity much higher with the normal test with the result with the test indicate the short test lamps the front panel. Certain special types test required with the continuous adjustable auxiliary power supply by pressing the push button S302B with the, you may refer to the M301 read the voltage auxiliary power supply on the meter for M301 the voltage being the pentameter resistor with the 142 with the resistor with the pentameter control of the calibration controls are just in special calibration cards calibration test out with the L circuit with the testers set with the filament supply with the electronically regulate with the compensator with the high voltage functions fluctuation filament supply voltage with the adjusted the pressing the foot buttons S703 302 with the and the rotating filament standard and adjusting the S106 with the until the meter 301 M301 reads mid scale. Program card circuit U with the testing soil with the pre-punch cover with the cover that U with made with the top of the vinyl plat with the material with the tube with the number of the printed circuit with the printed in the color of the tab of the cards also with the edge with the card the convenience and film with the special cover with the U with the marker and when the card is removed the U with the blank cards provide the additional test cover that may be punched with the new tube that are developed that replace the cards that have been unserviceable. The operation before operation for the tester for the first time for the periodically therefore you should calibrate U with the calibration test cover that describes the equipment detecting mean with the normal test for the testers equipment with the 3 conductor power core with one wire with which for the chassis ground with it should be plugged with the ground with 105 with 125 volts 550 to 400 hertz out with the before opening the test for the open the auxiliary component with the ensure the filament standard adjustment and the transducer bridge circuit transducer and big circuit balance now with the normal position with the grid signal with the cathode action with the SO302 with the SO302D should be up with the lane with the DSO108 with the front panel should be out. Turn on the tester, allow for the warm up with the 5 to 10 minutes, prep for the card to recheck with the down for the down until the live with the non test with the card with the install with the cards with the remove with the card with the keep with the switch band with the plate with the drone with the shipment with the should be insert with the body before testing the transporting the tester plug with the tube with the test with the proper check with the the pin with the straight and the before with the plugging in 7 and 9 pin with the miniature tube with the select the proper cover with the cards with the BU with the test with the two with the tap with the insert with the cover with the select with the install with the cover with the switch with the card reject the down with the pops up with the cover with the operator with the only of the fully with the pinning up at the top of the operative put paper or other object with the program cover with the card switch with the cover they will jam the switch contact with the overload chip with the off the tester for the cover with the insert with the switch check with the sheet that the proper card is being used for the tube under the tab for the tube under the test directly inter-element with the short. Assume for the card switch for the actuator with the tube under the test, they automatically subject with the inner element short tap with the heater cathode leakage shove the blink in the stereo globe with the ink short with the test tube test lamps indicate for the inner element short with the short test lamp lamp with the remain with the dark with the no air inter element with the short exists within the tube with the short exists between the two or more elements with the short test with the lamp with the connect with the between the elements that remain dark with the remaining lamp light. The abbreviation for the two of the elements for the located with the front panel just below with the short test with the neon lamps with between them they enable the operator to tell with the element with the short with the heater to the cathode shorts are indicated with the leakage current with the other than numbered 1 meter scale with the meter reading above the green area of the tube. They should be replaced with the direct heater and cathode short cover the meter to read full scale. To meet quality test the flush with the number 2 push button and then read with the number 2 scale on the meter M301 the term of the 2 with the good with the test may also be in the various types. Sure for the intransit for the emission for the plate current with the voltage drop depending on the other type of the tube button for the test half. The test tube with the gas pressure for the number 3 button with the read with the number 3 meter scale with the number the 2 button must also go down with when the number 3 press within the dual having with the 2 identical section being with the test with the neon lamp with the ESS203 with the indicating with the both section with the 2 with maybe tested with 1 with the car. 2 with the check tube with the short with the leakage quality with the gas and decrease previously with the hold the down button number 4 repeats of the test to the second section of the tube. The two will test the tubes within section 9 identical to require the 2 identical testing and the second card is also provided to make a special test in certain tubes. Auxiliary tests. As mentioned previously, the 2 special type of the cathode activity is sensitive grid short with maybe the with the control of the located with the auxiliary component with the cathode activity. The cathode activity test. You would indicate the amount of the useful life of the remain with the tube with the reduced filament voltage with the 10% of the allowing the cathode to cool off slightly with the abnormal ability of the cathode with the emitter electron that can be estimated with the test maybe conjunction with the normal quality test with the cathode to make the cathode activity test allow the test on the tube with the under the test to warm up with the press of the button. Number 2 figure 2 11 with the note with the reading of the scale with the number 2 with the meter 301 note with all the numerical scale reading of the MO3 with the MO301. Now look down the cathode active with the weight with about 1.5 minutes press the button. Number 2 again with the note with the numerical number 2 scale reading of the meter M301. The tube should be replaced with the numerical reading on M301 different with the first reading with more than 10% if the reading is red air with the number 2 scale with the sometimes the desired check with the certain tubes were sensitive to the short greater than normal than making sensitive grid shorts. Test push S302C and figure 2.2 no if any of the short test lamps figure 2.1 light. High power high frequency amplifier tube test. Normally with the high test tube the test high power amplifier tube to be operated with a low high frequency range with the transmitter which should be used with the operator with the tube with the transmitter with the condition can be used with the built-in measure with the grid current with the plate current with the power output. Compared with the value that obtained with the tubes to be known good. The collection tubes have to check with the lower power collection tube for the gap and frequency output for the signal output power plate for the equipment while the tube with the measure for the current and output. Frequency output with the transmitter, the built-in with the test equipment that you can check with the output with the collection with the receiver with the local oscillator with the measurement the current with the crystal measurement mixture unit. Collection tube with the remain with the operative for more than 6 months that may become a gap with the condition with the accurate with the collection and shelf with the store with the spare with the equipment with the collection store with the stocks. With the operating with the gaseous collection with the related voltage with the ion with the glow gas molecules may cause system beam the current to flow. System beam current may shorten with the life of the collection produce the immediate failure that you can take with the gas of the collection tube with the spice selecting apply with the reflector voltage with the G with the supply with the increasing beam voltage with the reserving the meter with the indicating the beam current with the expected the beam current with the specified voltage indicated with the tube is gassy. A gassy collection tube can usually be restored with the serviceable condition with the temporary operator with the and reduce the beam voltage with the 8 hour with the more with the reduced voltage operation may be required with the collection to have the inoperative with the period with excess of the 6 months with the beam current with the indicating with the power output with the collection 8 with the normally draw with the less beam with the current when the current decreases the minimum value with the specific beam with the voltage with the tube must be replaced with the usually determine the power output with the transmitter with the collection measure for the transmitter power output during the equipment performance checks. Traveling wave tube. The traveling wave, usually with the traveling wave tube, with the equipment which would be with the traveling wave tube, and so with the usually being method to collect with the current voltage with the check with the power output with the various input with the deviation greater than 10% with the normal specification, maybe consider with the active with the indicator for the defective tube. Most amplifiers supplied with a built-in panel with a meter for the select with the switch for the cathode anode helical focus for the collector current with the maybe measure for the continuous monitoring with the amplifier operation, the tube elevation possible adjusting usually provided with the helix grade base with the collector voltage with the optimum operation variation with these controls will not produce the normal currents. And if all the voltages are normal, you should together the tube with the deflect with the replace with the new tube with the one with the good operation condition. They avoid with the needless replace with the tube they have with the you should make with the additional check with the measurement the input with the output power with the determine the tube with the gain with the normal operating conditions. The gain level the drop with the below the minimum indicating value with the equipment checking main with the tube with the defect with the absence of the specified special field test with the main consider the truck with the laboratory test mock-up similar with that is figure 2-3 with the speak up with the variation power in power and began with the between the tube with the large frequency of the range off with the illustrate with the general type of the equipment you may select with the main type with the proper range with the impedance actuation to make with the type of the specific type of the for traveling wave tube. To make a game with a measurement that determine the switch with the shown figure 2-3 over the position 1 with the precision actuated with the provide with the conventional level of the detector output of the turn switch in the position 2 with the insert the actuation until the detector output the identical to the obtained within and out the traveling wave tube in the circle of the game with the traveling wave tube is equal to the amount of the added actuation. Figure 2-3 shows the traveling wave tube. The test is arrangement, the precision actuator, signal generator, power supply, 2 switches from traveling wave tube and the detector. When you use the traveling wave tube with the oscillator failed with the tube with the break with the oscillation while over the condition for the normal, you with the indicator with the defect with the tube, and the K with the tube, the U with the receiver with the amplifier, and crew with the dome with the normal, the reduce the output with the indicator with the tube, it is failing by still usable with the general rules applying with the Clashon tube that I mentioned previously, also applicable with the traveling wave tube. The magnetron tube depth. The test of the magnetron tube will transmit over the equipment to be when in some of the magnetron transmit the condition that should be determined with the normal the with the current measuring the power frequency spectrum of the same wave ratio test output signal the usual wave value with any other measurement indicating the defective tube cross-field amplifier. Usually test cross-field amplifier too. Equipment is usually with a classroom that does not operate with the cross-field amplifier for more than a few months. With the tube that may become gassy with the cross-field amplifier tube that may suspect of being gassy, we recommend that you can consult with the technical manual for the particular piece of equipment and cross-field amplifier use. Alright, testing semiconductor. Unlike vacuum tube, the transmitter very regular can tolerate with the vibration rather than large degree with the track with the normal operation condition that provide the dependable operation long period of time. However, the transistor show with the with the subject with the relative with the mind with the overloads. Crystal detectors show with the failure deterioration with the subject with the electrical overload deteriorate with a long period of time with the normal. You with the determinant with the condition semiconductor vary with the type of the method in any case with the substitute with the transistor with the normally good quality question. One determine the condition of the suspected transistor. This method is highly accurate and sometimes efficient. However, you should avoid the indiscriminate substitution semiconductor critical circuit with the transistor also soldered into the equipment substitution become impractical. Generally, you should test these transistors while they are in the circuit. In their circuits. Since the fundamental characteristics indicate the condition with the semiconductor with the test equipment available to allow the U to test with the correct character with the semiconductor with the in or out of the circuit with the crystal rectifiers normally allow the U to tap with the forward to reverse current ratio with the crystal with the test test however they allow you to measure the several characteristics of collector leakage and collector to base gain and 4-terminal network parameter the most useful of the test character to determine the type of the circuit where the transition will be used with the alternating current beta measurement with the performed with the AC amplifier oscillator application for the switching of the circuit the application for the direct current beta measurement may prove more useful. Many transistors extremely heat sensitive. Excessive heat will cause the semiconductor to either fail to give it intermittent operation with the properly experiment with the intermittent equipment. The problem with no with the both the time of the consumer. The frustrating for the example the problem is back with the call of the heat. Simply opening the equipment during the call of the course of the problem tripping may cause the problems to disappear with the generally estimate with the problem of faulty print of the circuit board by the observer the faulty indication. However, the further insight isolate with the problem the faulty component. Sometimes you must be able to minimal amount of the heat with the suspect of the printed circuit board by the carefully blowing the UV low voltage heat shrinking gun the incandescent drop light with a similar heating device. Make it careful not to overheat the printed circuit board and when the fault indication reappear with the can isolate the faulty component with the frame of these components suspected as being bad with the non-conductive circuit coolant with such a freon the alternating heat the cooling of the component causes it to operate with it intermittently and you should replace it. Alright, transistor testing. When troubleshooting the curve with the solid state equipment, you should first check with the power supply with the form, the voltage measure with the waveform, check with the signal, substitute with the signal, check with the isolate with the faulty with the shade with the one with the test measure with the voltage resistance and the current measurement is made with the locating defect with the parts making the measurement of the voltage meter and pivot must be high enough to exert no applicable effect with the voltage being measured. Also, with the current with the must be damaged with the transistor. If the transistor is not with the equipment, you should remove the transistor of the cycle during the resistance. The transistor should be removed. Reinsert with the cycle only after the power has been removed with the stage. Otherwise, damage of the stage or surge current may result. Transistor other than pulse and power amplifier stage usually based on the emitter with the current. With the 5 milliamp or 3 milliamp with the collector voltage is shown 3 and 15 volts. You can measure the emitter current with the optic with the emitter connected with the inserting the milliamp or 3 in series. When you're making the measurement, you should expect with the sum of the chamber of the die for the because of the meter resistance. They often determine the collector current with measuring the voltage drop the cup of the resistor. In collector circuit with the calculating when the current of the transistor itself is expected to be tested. One or more methods described below. The resistance tab. The view of the denominator of the tab of the transistor with the measuring the emitter for the collector with the base emitter with the base collector forward with the reverse resistance. Backward forward resistance ratio of the in order to 101, the greater should be obtained with the collector base, the emitter base measurement of the forward and reverse reactance. The resistances between the emitter and collector should be nearly equal. They should make all of them a 3 measurement each of the transistor. Your test the experience has shown that the transistors can develop the short between the collector and emitter that shall have the good forward and reverse resistance having the other two mentioned before, because the shunt resistance with the transistor circuit will have normally disconnect at least 2 transistors of the associated circuit with each of the causing caution during the test. The circuit current during forward resistance test does not exceed the rating of the transistor ammeter range with the required with the current with more than 1 milliamp. That should not be used with the testing transistor. Many ammeters are designed with the resistance of the times the 1 range on 100 milliamps or more with the electron part of the test. For the reason, you should also use the digital multimeter. Be sure that you select the digital multimeter produces enough of the voltage to properly bias with the transistor junction. Transistor test. The laboratory transistor tests are set with the experimental work with the tested character of the transistor for the main of the repair. However, it is not necessary to check all the transistor parameters. Check with the 2 or 3 performance characteristics usually sufficient to determine the transistor needs to play with the 2 more important parameters of the transistor testing transistor current gain, beta, and current leakage or reverse current. Semiconductors test the 2-4 with the rugged of the field tab with the test design with the field tab of the transistor. Semiconductor device is the measure of the transistor resisting appearing with the electrode with the reverse current with the transistor semiconductor diode and shorted open condition the diode forward transducing the field that effect for the transistor the condition often its own batteries. In order to assume that we act for the use of the information for the game with the transistor, check with the following parameter limited check with the check that should be made power with the testing of the transistor with the polarity switch the opposition from the meter point with the should indicate exactly 0 required with the rotate of the meter with the adjust with the screw with the front with the meter with the fill with the screw on with the measurement. They're not actually being made with the polarity switch should switch must also be left in the off position to prevent battery draining. Always check with the condition from the test of the battery. Disconnect the set power cord, placing the polarity switch with the positive negative position, positive position with the plate with the function switch battery 1, then battery 2 with the both battery position with the meter point with the should move the indicator with the red battery range. Beta measurement. The transistor tap of the circuit the plug in the adjust jack located the right hand side below with the meter shown with the 2-4 with the transistor. The tap of the circuit with the imperative of the least of 300 ohms is this between EB, CB, and CE for the accurate measurement. The initial setting with the test controls or valve function switch. Beta polarity switch, the positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Range switch is times 10, the adjustable meter 0 meter indicator transistor disconnected. No, the polarity switch should remain off with the transistor connected with the 2 or connected with the test set with the determine the beta reading with the less than 10 with the rest of the reset the range with the switch for the X1 with the reset of the meter 0. After collecting yellow test leave with the emitter with the green test with the lead to the base and the blue tap lead with the collector plug with the test rope with the not shown with the jack located with the lower right hand corner of the test ground with the equipment the plug with the 115 volt AC line core using the battery operating with the battery reading obtained with the multi-reading with the meter with the meter reading time with the range switch setting of the refer to the transistor character with the provide the test to determine the reading of the normal type of transistor on the test. Electrode resistance with the measurement. Connect with the insert with the probe with the test lead with the transistor the yellow type with the limit with the green. Leave with the B with the blue, leave with the collector with the function switch, the O arms, the EB with the position, read with the resistance between the emitter and the base with the center scale with the meter to read the flow resistance between the collector and the base with the collector and the emitter with the function switch, the CB with the CE. And this intersect with the electrode resistance measurement, the U with correctly interpret the insert of the beta measurement of the accuracy of the beta times 1 times 10 in range and then plus or minus 15% only with the emitter base load is equal to greater than 300 ohms. Alright, current leakage measurement of the meter 0 with the control of the 0 meter indicating plug with the train for the tip, tap with the jack with the connected glass to the leads device, over the tap with the positive, negative, positive, negative, switch correct with the transistor on the switch under the tap set the function switch the current leakage for the range switch with the at times 1/10 1 and 100 well 110 1/10 1 and 1 10 as specified the transistor data book of the law with the leakage read amount of the leakage bottom scale with the multiply with the range setting is required. For your diode measurement, diode quality of the insert with the measurement. The same with the connect with the green test lead with the leads of the cathode, yellow test lead with the anode, set the function with the switch with the diode, in check with the and the range of the switch for the times 1, and check with the meter with the edge properly 0 with the properly 0 to 0 in scale. If the meter reads the down scale with the 0, reverse the polarity switch if the meter reads less than mid scale. Mid scale the diode under the test either open shorted. Related circuit input for the test left with 25 ohms. Precautions. Transistors all they have with the greater leave with the move with the more regular with the mechanical electron tube with the suspect with the damage except for the heat with the electrical overload with the faulty precaution should be taken with the strip with the transistor equipment of the test equipment soldering over the must be checked with being external with the no leakage. Current through the power strip with the leakage detect with the isolation transformer must be used on the meter range with the required with the current of the more than 1 milliamp with the test circuit with not to be used with the testing transistor better eliminators. Not be used with the furnace power with the transistor equipment because of the poor voltage regulation, possibly high ripple voltage. Heated to play with the transistor when soldered connections are required to be kept with the minimum of the lower wattage soldering iron with the heat shown for such as the long nose prior on the transistor leads. All circuits should be checked for the defect with the transistor replaced. The power should be removed with the equipment by the plate for the transistor over the circuit over the circuit of the port. When the work with the equipment closely spaced, you find with the conventional test of the port with the with the external short circuit with the between the external memory terminal with the monetary short circuit with the rarely cover the damage of the electron tube that may run with the transistor to avoid the accidental short with the test probe with the cover the insulation all built with a very short length of the type. Or electrostatic discharge sensitivity care. With the device the sensitivity electrostatic discharge require the special aim with the readily with the electrostatic discharge sensitivity device the symbol is shown with the 2,5 electric radiated whenever the two substances solid fluid are rubbed together separated with the rubbing and separated with the substance cover the transfer the electron from one substance to the other. The one substance then becomes the positively charged, the other becomes the negatively charged. When either of these charges are substances come in contact with the ground, conduct with the electronic current flow with the substance in the same electrical potential as the ground. 2.5 show the warning symbol for the electronics electrostatic discharge sensitivity. Your commonly experienced data people during the winter month when you have the carpet, the vinyl, and the carpeted floor with the side, especially with the plaque, with excellent with the generator with the static electricity. If you and the intent of the door and the other conduct with the electrical over the ground may result with you may receive with a slight shock with the very year to experience with such a shock with the electrostatic potential created it must be 3,500 to 4,000 volts. Lesser voltages, although they present similar discharge with normally not apparent with the nervous system, typically measured with the static charge with the call of the various actions shown in Baker Table 2.1. Metal oxide semiconductor with most suspect with the damage of the ESD for the electrostatic discharge. Example: the metal oxide semiconductor field with the effect of the transistors, the damage of the static voltage potential with a little of 35 volts coming with the discrete bipolar transistor. The diode with the electrostatic discharge protected. Although less suspectable electrostatic discharge can damage the voltage potential less than 3,000 electrostatic voltage. Damage does not always result with a sudden device with the failure. Sometimes result with the device degraduation earlier failure to be able to one clearly show the electrostatic voltage as well as successes. The voltage of 3,000 will easily generate especially low under humidity condition with electrostatic discharge damage with the electrostatic discharge circuits. Part circuit assembly, but possible when the two or more pins of the device are really exposed with the lower and pin with the path of the electrostatic discharge circuit or system device with the printed circuit board even with the another printed circuit board with the electrode connect with the shear with the damage and provide with the path of the ground electrostatic discharge with the can occur with the manufacturing equipment during with the surface when the equipment damage that can occur with the time any time with the device and disabled with the handle to replay with the tap and serve with the connector. With the electrostatic discharge sensitivity device can be grouped in is the sensitivity electrostatic discharge semiconductor for all within the following categories. Very sensitive these include the MOS and the COMOS metal oxides sensors and printed circuit diode with input without input diode with the protection circuit with the output input for the circuit with the dielectrically isolated semiconductor with the internal capacity of the contact with the external pin with the micro circuit with the negative ground. negative plus ground ring, construct the metal after the crossing over the ground ring. Semi-sensitive device. This includes all power, outside Briar, outside TL device, ECL device with the input with the linear microcircuit with a small signal with the transition. Operated with 500 megahertz or higher with the discrete semiconductor with the silicon dioxide insulate metal pad with the other activators, MOS, MOS, device with the input with diode protection on all input terminal junction field effect transistor, precision resistive networks, moderate sensitive device. These include microcircuit with small signal, discrete semiconductor less than 10 watts discretion, dissipation at 25 degrees Celsius, thick film resistors. Following procedure with example of some of the predictive measures to prevent electrostatic discharge damage. 1. Before surfacing equipment, you shoot the ground with the discharge of the static electricity from your body that can be accomplished either successfully with a single wire conductor with a shoot with a resistance of 1 mega ohm, equipped with alligator clips on each end. After the equipment has completely de-energized, one clip and connected to the ground equipment with the frame, the other clip in with the touch with your bare hand, figure 2-6 show with a more ground strap with the free both hands of the work. Note, when wearing a wrist strap, you should never use the AC power test equipment because this increases your chance of receiving the electrical shock. This shows your cord straight with the elastic metal band, metallic fiber, banana plug field clip lead, molded plastic 1 mega ohm resistor. 2. Equipment technical manuals package materials should be checked with the electrostatic discharge warning instruction prior to operating with electrostatic unit package electrostatic devices. Equipment clip with the free end of the ground tap the leakage lead of the package will cover the electrostatic the static electricity that may have the package discharge of the other and remain connected with the equipment frame and the other electrostatic discharge ground. Keep until the package of the ground until the replacement device assembly in place until the package. Handle with the electrostatic discharge device with an assembly, keep the plate with the device assembly with the connector short bar with the clips and so forth, and intact with the electrostatic free pack with the until with the knee with the plate to remove the electrostatic discharge devices, assembly with the connector shorting bar with the install the electrostatic free pack with the consumer the remove them the equipment the electrostatic discharge device assembly should be transported stored in the protected packaging. Always avoid the unnecessary physical movement such as discussing feed handle with the electrostatic devices assembly such movement but only additional charge with the static electricity. Remove the replace with the electrostatic surface this device with the assembly with the equipment device with the assembly the electrostatic free wrap with the probably otherwise pick up with the device for the assembly build only body only. Do not surf the component leave with the connector tip pins and any other electrical connection path of the boards even through the cover of the conforming formal coating. Do not permanent electrostatic device with the assembly come in contact with the clothing and other underground material with the have the electrostatic charge with the trouble with the non-conductive material with the non-equal the plastic storage but may have the negative 10,000 volt potential 1/2 inch with the 15,000 volt potential with many other such charges all over the bag with the circuit board and in the packet bag with the also with the equal of the circuit board connect back with the component with the back up the handle electrostatic device with the assembly and other personal devices particularly package. Remove the electrostatic device and assembly always just always touch with your bare skin for the surfacing of the rest for less than 1 second before picking it up before placing it on any surface testing the surface below your free hand with at least 1 second with the bare skin contact provides a safe discharge by the electrostatic charge accumulated while moving around. While surfacing equipment the electrostatic discharge do not handle the touching metal material with the plastic vinyl, synthetic test, textile, push, polished wood, fiber, glass, similar items with the created static charge with some repeat the ground action by hands of the contact of these materials primary electrostatic generators. If possible, avoid repair of the requiring soldering equipment level. The soldering iron must have the heater and the tip of the stem of the ground with the AC electrical ground. Do not use the ordinary plastic solder suckers. Special anti-static solder suckers are commercially available. The ground leave the test equipment monetarily before the energizing test equipment before the probe with electrostatic devices. Alright, diode testing. Because of the reliability of the semiconductor device, the technique to develop the transistor drive, the equipment the different with the U with the electronic tube with the circuit with the electron tube with the U with the conservative with the circuit component with the most suspect with the fail with the normally first have to be tapped with the transistor how the capable of the operating except for the 30,000 hour with the maximum range without appreciable degradation from the alpha of the side with the equipment of the same man with the resistor the capacitor substitute for the diode with the transistor known with the good condition simplify of the work to determine the quality of the questionable semiconductor device. You should be able to technique only after the voltage resist the measurement that indicate the non-circuit of the defect of the exhibit the damage the substitute of the damage the substitute of the semiconductor device more with the one defect of the semiconductor device is present in the equipment of the substrate section with the trouble gas to be localized substitution become the cover some of the sense of the semiconductor that may have the replaced before the trouble is occurred determine with the stage failed with the semiconductor device you must test all remove semiconductor. This can be accomplished by observing the equipment and operate with carefully, correctly as is each of the removed semiconductor devices reinserted into the equipment. I Diode testers. Diodes such as special general germanium silicon diodes, power silicon diodes, microwave silicon diodes are most effectively tested under actual operating conditions. However, rectifier tests are available to determine the direct current character for the provided, indicating the diode quality. Alright, common type of the diode test the combination ammeter with the ammeter make you the measurement of the forward resistance, the back resistance, and the reverse current. With the equivalent, you can determine the condition from the rectifier of the test with the comparing the actual value with the typical value obtained from the test information from the test set with the manufacturer data sheet comparing with the diode back with the forward resistance. The specified voltage provided that you with a rough indication of the rectifying property of the diode with the typical back of the forward resistance ratio that is on order of 10 to 1. The forward resistance value with a 50 to 80 ohms is common. Switching diode test. The effect of the test valve with the computer application must be obtained with the back resistance, the measurement, large number of the different voltage level of this can be done. Effect the dynamic diode test with the conjunction of the oscilloscope with which for the display with the diode back with the reverse voltage, but they can easily interpret the diode character with the flutter, hysteresis, negative resistance, thus for the dynamic current of the voltage displayed. Alright, your diode character graphic display, the oscilloscope with the graphic display with the forward and back resistant character for the diode with the test circuit with the conjunction oscilloscope shown figure 2.7 with the circuit E with the audio signal generator with the test signal that should be adjusted to approximately 2 volt with the 60 here with the signal to measure with the cross resistor 1. Display with the trick with the oscilloscope. Show the resistor 1, the diode under test resistor 2, the main oscilloscope and the audio signal generation. Test signal to apply with the diode with the connect with the horizontal input with the oscilloscope with the horizontal sweep with the display voltage apply with the diode under the test the voltage develop with the oscilloscope current the resistor of the resistor 2 apply with the vertical input with the oscilloscope so the voltage is proportional to the current through the diode under the test the vertical deflection with the indication of the diode with the current with the resulting oscilloscope tray for the wheel similar with the current shown in figure 2.8. Figure 2H for the typical characteristic of the silicon diode. Reverse voltage current analysis. You can make the analysis of the reverse voltage current with the proportion of the characteristic curve of the diode with the method of the described develop the diode test set. This is very important with the diodes due to the computer application for their stability with the operation is essential to various diode conditions that may be with the technical test shown in figure 2.9, view A, B, view C, and view D. View A, diode, good diode trace, hysteresis characteristics, fluttering drift characteristics, negative resistant trace. Using your diode to have the auto signal generator that may not be produced with high enough the voltage with the tab of the zero diode whether you can however make the tab of the diode tab of the circuit shown with the figure 210 if the tab of the resistor 1 you adjust the input voltage for the sustainable value with the zero diode being tested. Resistor 2 limited the current through the diode with a single voltage supply with the diode and connect with the horizontal input with the oscilloscope with the voltage develop the curve with the current measure resistor 3 apply with the vertical input with the oscilloscope with the horizontal sweep but therefore represent with the apply with the voltage flat vertical deflection indicating with the current through the diode under the test figure 211 that show with the characteristic pattern with the zero diode and a sharpening curve with the current with the avalanche breakpoint breakdown point with the zero diode acceptable the voltage must be limited as specified by the manufacturer. Resistor 1 diode under test the resistor 2 and 3 with the meter the voltage linear voltage back conduction avalanche breakdown forward conduction and static resistance measurements. One of the convenient methods of testing diode require the only the ammeter with the forward back with the resistance of the bending method voltage determine the barrier potential for the ammeter with the resistance range that is with the meter. So with the test lead with the ammeter connect with the diode with the resistance the measure for the differential with the resistance the indicate with the leaves that have reverse. The smaller value with the call the forward resistance the larger value with the call with the back resistance of the ratio of the back to forward resistance greater than 10 and 1 with the diode should be capable of functioning out of the rectifier with a very limited test that does not take into account the action of the diode and the diode voltage with the different magnitude of the frequency. Some of the diodes may be damaged excessive current produced with some of the range setting of the same multimeter, but therefore should be digital multimeter to perform this measurement. Silicone controlled rectifiers. By enabling electronic equipment, the silicone controlled rectifier with the control power with the control of the power with the likely other solid state with the silicone controlled rectifier. Subject to fail with the test of the silicone controlled rectifier stand with the ammeter with the must understand just how a silicone control rectifier works. As shown in figure 212 with the silicone control rectifier, 3 elements solid state device with the forward resistant with the can be controlled. 3 active elements shown in figure with the anode, cathode, and gate with the differ with the outward appearance with the silicone controlled rectifier operate with the same way silicone controlled rectifier like the very high resistant rectifier both forward and reverse direction with the requiring gate signal. However, the correct gate signal is applied with the silicone control rectifier connect with the forward direction. Same with the ventral rectifier with the test of the silicone control rectifier connect with the ammeter between the anode and the cathode shown with the 212 with the start with the resistance time with 10,000 read gradually with the silicone control rectifier under test very high resistance regardless of the ammeter polarity the anode will conduct a positive the ammeter must now be short of the gate with the called the silicone rectifier with the cathode that control the low resistance reading will indicate the ammeter the remove the anode to the gate short will stop the silicone control rectifier for the conducting before removing any of the ammeter lead with the cover of the silicon control rectifier can stop the conducting resistant reading will return the previous high voltage with the silicon control rectifier operated with the connection of the ammeter. The speaker of the ammeter does not supply with enough current without the silicon control rectifier name of the equipment can be set to the ammeter with the map of the silicon control rectifier resistor 1 but must supply with much current to the device damage it, therefore trying to tip the high resistance scales. Cathode anode gate with the short, anode gate with the remove the short. Or the triac General Electric tray with the name silicone control gate, full wave AC switch shown with the figure 212, 213 device. Designed to switch to the blocking state of the conducting state from either polarity with applied voltage with either positive or negative with the gate, triggering like a conventional silicone controller with the triac. Similarly, solid state with the device with the current control flow that make the triac with the conducting use the same method of silicone control rectifier, but the triac with the advantage being able to control equally with the forward and reverse directions. Step the triac of the ammeter, the resistance of the one scale to connect the ammeter with the negative lead with the anode with 1 and positive lead anode 2 is shown with the gear 213 ammeters for the indicated very high resistance short with the gate with the anode 2 with the remove the resistance of the reading shown drop the low value with the remaining low either until the leader lead with the disconnect with the trial with the lead with the first step of the second test involved the reversing leader lead with between anodes 1 and 2 with the positive lead with the connect with the M1 negative lead to connect to anode 2. Again, the short gate with the anode 2 with the remove the resistant reading shot should again drop the low value with the remaining low either that with the ammeter leave it disconnected. Alright, your uni junction transistor shown figure 214 solid state with 3 terminal semiconductor with a stable output circuit with the negative with the resistant character with the characteristic uni junction transistor is to serve the excellent oscillator with the testing the uni junction transistor the relatively easy tap of the view of the unit junction transistor they became the connect with the junction of the two resistors shown in figure 215. They have all ammeter measure the resistance between base 1 and base 2 with the reverser ammeter leading to another reading of the readings show with the high resistance regardless of the meter leader polarity connect with the negative with the lead of the ammeter with the emitter. Unit junction transistor usually using the positive lead with the measuring of the resistance of the emitter base 1 with the emitter base 2. Both readings should indicate the high resistance with approximately equal to each other. The disconnect with the negative lead with the emitter with the connect with the positive lead 2. The negative lead measuring the resistance of the emitter base 1 to the emitter base 2. But both readings should indicate the low resistance approximately equal to each other. Or your junction field the effect of the transistor tap. The junction field effective transistor have the JFAT circuit application for the sum of the vacuum tube. The junction field effect of the transistor has voltage response character for the high impedance. The type of the junction field effect of the transistor that should be have the familiar junction positive channel within the junction negative channel types shown in the figure 216. The equivalent circuit shown in figure 217 and 218 respectively only different with the type of the two type of the junction field effect of the transistor inversely polarity the meter leads. Show the gate, drain, and source, negative channel, gate, drain, and source, positive channel. Negative joint field effect transistor, circuit, drain, source, gate, drain, source, positive joint field effective equivalent. For your negative channel test, use the ammeter with the resistance times 100 scale with measure for the resistance between the drain with the absorber with the reverser ammeter lead with the ticket and the other reading of the both readings equal in the 100 to 10,000 ohm range regardless of the meter lead polarity with the positive lead 2 with the gate with the negative lead with measure for the resistance between the gate and the drain with the measure for the resistance between the gate and the short of the both readings show the indicate with the low resistance be approximately the same with the disc with the positive lead with the gate with the negative lead with the gate with the positive lead measuring the resistance between the gate with the drain with the measure for the resistance between the gate and the short of the both readings showed it should be infinity. Positive with the ammeter resistance of the 100 scale, they measure the resistance between the drain with the sort of the reverse the meter leads with the ticket and another reading. Both the readings should be the same with the 100 to 10,000 ohms, regardless of the meter lead polarity next to the connect. Positive the meter lead to pull up see the gate, and then use the negative lead measuring the resistance between the gate and the drain with the measure between the gate and the short of the both readings should be infinity disconnect with the positive lead with the gate with the negative lead with the gate usually positive lead. Measure for the resistance between the gate and the drain with the measure for the between the gate and the source of the both readings should indicate low resistance approximately equal. Alright, MOSFET testing. In any type of the semiconductor must be familiar with the metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor. Shown in figure 219, 220, most extremely careful working the metal oxide semiconductor field effective the transistor become with a high degree of sensitivity stack volts previously mentioned in the chapter of the soldering iron that should be ground with the metal plate. It should be played with the workbench ground with the ship through all through 250 kilo ohm with a 1 mega ohm resistivity should off the wear plate with an attached ground strap the brown yourself with the ship up the hull with a 250 kilo ohm with 1 mega ohm resistance. You should know that not only the metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor come in contact with the clothing of the cellophane type of material. The vacuum plunger for the solid circuit with the minus speed used to recover the high electrostatic charge that can generate solid removal by wicking is recommended. Is a good practice with the wrap metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor metal foil with the other type of when they are out of circuit. To ensure the metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor safety under the test, the portable milliammeter of the length metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor resistant measurement. The voltage trans vacuum tube must have never be used to testing a metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor. You must be aware when you are testing the metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor with the ground with the chip with the station ground with the voltage transistor voltage maximum vacuum tube voltage meter. You should uncover the difference. Safety has to pick up with the 115 volt 60 hertz power server. The resistance the measurement that are complete with the metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor probably show with the underground volt play with the workbench yourself. You also understand the metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor testing before you view the equivalent and circulate with the dial with the resistor shown in figure 221 and 222. Alright, metal oxides, drain substrate with the gate with the source, the gain substrate, source and gate, substrate, gain, drain and gate, drain, substrate, gate, source. Alright, metal oxides, semiconductor field effective transistor, depletion enhancement testing. Using the omni with the resistance scale of 100. Measure with the resistance between the metal oxide semiconductor field, the MOSFET, the drain with the over the reverse of the ammeter with the take of another reading with the reading should be equal to regard of the meter lead polarity, connect with the power of the lead with the with the gate, you with the negative lead, measure the resistance between the gate with the drain, with the between the gate with the source. Both readings show infinity disconnect with the power of the lead with the gate, with the connect with the negative lead with the gate, you with the power of the lead, measure for the resistance between the gate with the drain with the measure for the between the gate and the source. With the both readings should show the infinity disconnect with the lead and negative lead with the gate with the substrate. You with the power of the lead, measure for the resistance between the substrate with the drain, with the between the substrate and the source. Both of the readings should indicate the infinity disconnect with the negative lead with the substrate with the negative power of the lead. You with the substrate the negative lead measure for them so the measure the resistance between the substrate and the drain with the drain, the substrate and the source. Both readings should indicate the low resistance about 1,000 ohms. Alright, metal oxide semiconductor field effective transistor enhancement type. The UV omnidirectional resistor scale with the 100 measure the resistance between the drain with the source of the reverse lead, but they take another reading with between the drain and the source. Both readings show the infinity of the meter load lead polarity to connect with the positive lead with the omnidirectional with the gate with the U with the negative lead measure the resistance between the gate and the drain between the gate and the source. With the both readings show indicate the infinity disconnect with the positive lead with the gate with the connect with the negative lead with the gate with the U with the of the lead, measure the resistance between the gate and the drain, between the gate and the source. With both readings should indicate the infinity disconnect with the negative lead, the gate and connect with the substrate. With the positive lead, measure the resistance between the substrate of the drain and between the substrate and the source. Both readings should indicate the infinity disconnect with the negative lead with the substrate connect with the positive lead with the substrate. Use the negative lead, measure the resistance between the substrate of the drain, between the substrate and the source. With both readings should indicate the low resistance about 1,000 ohms. Alright, integrated circuit testing. Integrated circuit testing with the area with the microelectronics, which are made with conventional electronic components combined with a high density module with the integrated circuit are made up of the active the passive component with the transistor out of the resistor capacitor become the reducer side of the integrated circuit can simplify the other complex system with a reducing number of separate component with the interconnection that you can also reduce the power system power consumption, reduce the overall side of the equipment and significantly lower overall cost of the equipment. Conserve the main type of the integrated circuit, the electrostatic devices should be handled accordingly. Your integrated circuit with the testing and the approach with the needs to be somewhat different with the UV testing vacuum tube with the transfer, the physical attention for the integrated circuit, the primary with the different approach for the most with the frequently integrated circuit with the manufacturer. Either 14, 16 pins allowed with the made the soldered directly into the circuit. They can quite a job of the fairly undersiding with all these pins, even with a special tool designed for the purpose of after unsiding with all the pins you have the tendency job of cleaning the straightening straightening all of them. All the few integrated circuit with the tabs are marked with the application for the limited just transistors must be with the circuit with the B-tab with the integrated circuit that must be removed with the permanent testing. When integrated circuit should be the conjunction with the external component with the external component should be first checked with the proper operation. It is practical important linear application with the chain with the feedback with the circuit that adversely affect with the operating character of the component. Any linear analog integrated circuit with the supply voltage, especially as the case with the integrated circuit with the bay with the control voltage, additional supply voltage, especially with the linear integrated circuit being defective with all voltage of the accompanying the integrated circuit must be checked against the manufacturer circuit diagram equipped with the special notes and voltage. The manufacturer handbook will also be given the recommended voltage for any particular integrated circuit. The troubleshoot with the integrated circuit with the digital linear that cannot be considered with what's going on with the inside of the integrated circuit that you cannot take measurements of the conductor with the repair of the integrated circuit. You must sure that you should therefore consider the integrated circuit with the black box with performing the certain function for the check with the integrated circuit. However, the circuit that can perform the desired function that you can check with the static voltage of the external component associated with the integrated circuit with the check with the dynamic operation, the intent of the function of the amplifier, measure for the input and output of the function of the logical gate combination for the gate relatively easy to determine what the inputs required to achieve the desired high and low output with expressly different integrated circuits provided in figure 213. Dual inline package to the flat pack and the IC can. Digital integrated circuit relatively easily troubleshoot tests because of the limited number of the input and output combination when they using the power of the logic state with the input and output of the digital integrated circuit as either high or low, referred to one state with the lower, else also referred to zero state with the digital circuit that has state with the 5 volt DC level. The low 0 volt DC can off-the-breedily determine the logic state with the integrated circuit at high put and input with the impedance of the measuring device, such as the oscilloscope with the main cover, the encrypted the integrated circuit. The recent years, numerous pieces of the test equipment have been designed especially for the test of the integrated circuit found in the paragraphs. Our logic clips shown figure 224, signal load of the device for the design with the clip onto the dually inline package integrated circuit with the integrated mount within the circuit with the simple device either 16 lighting and light emitting diode with the ground with the top of the clip light emitting diode corresponding with the individual pins of the integrated circuit with the any LED represent the high logical state of the LED until the unlit LED represent the low logic state of the logic clip require no external power connection. They are small, lightweight. Their ability to simultaneously monitor input and output integrated circuit are very helpful to troubleshooting logic circuits. Logic comparters. Logic comparters shown figure 225. The design with the vault with the integrated with the digital integrated DIP. I don't know what that means. Integrated circuit with the compare with the integrated circuit known with the reference of the integrated circuit with the reference of the integrated circuit with the name of the small printed circuit with the insert with the logical comparter. The attach with the logical part of the integrated circuit with the name of the test lead. Some of them with the connect with the spring load device similar to the appearance of the logical part of the design with the defect of the difference for the logic state with the reference card indicator integrated circuit being tough the difference of the logic state that does exist with any with the pin LED corresponding to the pin of the question will be lit with the logic comparator powered and integrated circuit under the test. So the logic comparator. Alright, logic probe. Logic probes are shown in figure 226 with extremely simple, usable devices designed that help to detect with the logical state of the integrated circuit. The logic probe is extremely show that immediately with a specific point in the circuit with the low, high, open, pulsing, high indicate with the light with the aim of the probe with the lit low indicate with the light is an extinguisher with the probes over the feature for the detector with the display high speed transition pulse as a small and the 5 nanosecond wide with the probes will usually connect with the direct power supply with the devices repetitive, although viewers also have the internal batteries. Some of the most integrated circuit with the show of the point of the circuit that's with either a higher or low level of the probe to provide with a quickly and expensive way to locate the fault. They can also display the single and short duration pulse that's so hard to catch for the oscilloscope with the ideal logic probe will have those characteristics. Be able to detect with a steady logic level to be able to take a train of logical level to be able to take an open circuit with and able to detect with a high speed transit. With a high over voltage protection, be small, light, and easy to handle. Have the high input impedance of the power to protect against circuit loading. Logic pulsers. Another extremely useful device for troubleshooting logic circuit with the logic pulse within similar with the shape of the logic probe with the design of the input, the logic pulse with the circuit under test for the logic pulser. The generally used in conjunction with the logic clip of the logic probe to help with the straight with the pulse through circuit under the tap to verify the proper operation of the integrated circuit with the logic with the purpose. With the feature allowed with a single proportion pulse injection train pulse with the logic purse with the usually power with the external DC power with the supply with the main with the cover with the be connected directly with the power supply with the device under these tests. If you view A figure 227 with the typical logical pulse, the view B show with the logic pulse to the right with you with the logic probe. Left show with the probe tip with the signal injection and the circle with the push button the switch with the injection pulse with the train with the power lead supply leads. Figure 227 with the logic pulser. Alright, your logic analyzer. Relatively new device, the test equipment seen with the logic analyzer. With the logic analyzer provide various functions that except for the main with the test and troubleshooting the equipment. You with the direct circuitry. Your standpoint with extra you will perform and testing and analysis of both of the logical and cathode ray to display with the Ken monitor of the 32 times signal at the same time large percent of today's digital equipment is designed with the logical analyzer in mind. They have been built and staffed with the bus line with the convenience monitoring and multiple signals at the same time. When the monitoring bus line, you can readily determine the visual display starts within the presence of the master clock signal and sequence time in advance. Alright, battery measurement. The technician promptly control the use of the batteries, help with the check with the test and store the dye cell batteries. Important, but the primary maintenance program property of the maintenance of the batteries significantly is the useful life of the battery. Storage battery. You can check with the lead acid type of the storage, but the condition of the discharge or discharge. You take a specific gravity reading electrolyte by either the hydrometer, the specific gravity reading between 2.275 and 1.3 and 1.300, indicate the full charge condition, ensure for the battery with the condition, hydrometer reading approximately 1.175, and indicate the normal discharge condition, reading of approximately 1.250, and indicate the battery is a half discharge. Some instance acid due to the various batteries that do not always have the same specific gravity, since the electrode composition may differ. The hydrometer reading obtained with the chart of the discharge conditions will vary with the type of the electrolyte with the battery consumption. General rule, you will follow the not discharge of the battery more than 100 points of 100 or 0.100 specific gravity before recharging. Although reading a specific gravity is reliable to measure for the condition of the storage battery itself, they indicate the normal to provide improve the unless the underload with the usually called the high internal resistance, the high load voltage check with the cell with the U of the cell tester, and give the actual voltage change. Charge held that each of the battery cell with the cell voltage should not be more than 15 hundredths of the volt, or for 6 volt and 12 volt batteries. Use the extreme caution whenever the testing working around lead acid storage battery. Optimal these 5123B to emphatically state that when using where eye protects the device at all times, emergency eye wash facility immediately adjacent or with 10 feet with the eyes, and hazardous smoking and spark producing tools devices are prohibited in closed cases with contain lead acid storage batteries. When charging the batteries, produce sufficient quantity of the hydrogen to produce the large explosion. Lead acid storage batteries should only be charged in well ventilated spaces. Dry batteries. Most periodically check with the dry cell with the instrument portable to feel the equipment lost with the power actual voltage dry battery. There should measure the battery with the test of the minimum acceptable voltage before installation. The TS1830 with the of the battery test. The incorporated multiple range volt meter of the battery leading resistor multi-resistor jacking switch arrangement that connects the load resistor action out of the voltmeter total with 32 different voltmeter lead load resistor combination. The type of the transformer that complete with a rapid accurate measurement of the battery potential for the load condition for ranging of the voltage from 1.5 to 180 volts. The data chart and battery test to provide information regarding what the jacks to be the minimum acceptable voltage for the various batteries and name of the equipment. Alright, table 2.2 show the general standard with the tolerance for the dry battery for the practical dry cell of the battery that should not be even stored with the refrigerator. Standard in service life with the carbon zinc and the alkaline battery. The carbon zinc and the alkaline batteries use the primarily portable test equipment for bombs, flashlights, some of the portable radius bacon equipment. The carbonized zinc with the cell provides 1.5 volts holds the charge with approximately 1 year in the normal service. Alkaline cell provides 1.2 volts with approximately about twice the storage of air range of the carbon zinc with the cell at the same time with longer life with a higher discharge rate. Carbon zinc cells use the discharge both the type of the battery, first indicating the weakness. Mercury cells, storage life of the mercury cell varies with but generally can be classified along with the working life of the cell extremely long relatively other type of the battery to maintain the full rated voltage of 1.34 volts of the just before ready to expire, which with the voltage with the drop off shortly with the recharge of the mercury cell with the measure for the recommended peak of the recharging cycle can be varied from one cell to another after being recharged, but the lifetime is uncertain. Or nickel-cadmium battery. The nickel-cadmium batteries have very high efficiency. They can be recharged with 100 of the time, but they give it the proper condition. They may have even recharged with half of the time, but they can be recharged with the number of the year, but it's non-significant. No significant off the performance of the few charge of the discharge cycle with the nickel-cadmium battery cells can be recharged with the point, but they just become just as good as the new battery. They are sealed, that they are maintenance-free, but they can be installed in any position. See type of the nickel-cadmium battery. The non-benefit discrete deals with the non-benefit exclusive between the nickel-cadmium battery with the extremely limited the application in the shipboard environment. The volume of the terminal of the nickel-cadmium battery normally between 1.20, 1.25 and 1.30 of the volts open with the open circuit of the valve with the very cover depending on the shape of the drop of the drop the valve with the 1.1 volt. The nickel-cadmium should be regarded between the complete with the discharge and should not be permitted the discharge further. The majority of the nickel-cadmium are rated milliampere hours. Large ones rated in ampere hour with the nickel-cadmiums are one of the technicians must always be concerned with. Alright, it's general the type of the rule with the held with the 10% of the milliamp per hour with the rating with the nickel-cadmium. The time is with the hold of 150% of the time. They require with the establishing full milliamp rating with the no difficulty with maintaining nickel-cadmium with the maximum charge. For example, you should charge the battery rated with 300 milliamp for 15 hours. 3 milliamp. You can leave the battery with extended charge for the year with provide the charge rate with a lower less than 10% of the nickel-cadmium milliamp rating. Or you should never play with the nickel-cadmium, and then you probably will pick up with the metal objects. Start for the keys, control with the cover with the extreme heat, never the cover with the nickel-cadmium battery fire with the cover because it can explode. Never start with the connection directly to the cell. Because of the heat with the iron can damage it. Never overcharge the nickel-cadmium cell with the cover the accumulation of the gas that can destroy it. Nickel-cadmium batteries are subject to the phenomenal common referred to as called cell memory. The nickel-cadmium is constantly disturbed the minimum example, for example, 30 minutes per day, then recharge after each of the use of full capacity of the cell will eventually reduce the level. To keep this happening, you should charge the fully discharge 1.1 volts, nickel cadmium on a regular basis. The fact that some of the maintenance equipment that regards calibration laboratory procedure required with periodic full discharge equipment containing. Alright, radio frequency actuator resistive load type. The radio frequency actuated decay with the type of the actuated decayed resistive 30 to 75 ohm loads clearly marked with a shade for the actuation factor of the resistive and K with the precision of the radio frequency actuator. They are usually marked with a show that the usually frequency range of their basic resistive. The described devices are designed with multitude of applications. None of the devices are usually repairable. However, they should be aware of the different methods to determine whether or not they are functioning properly. Fixed radio frequency actuator. For the figure shown figure 228, the terminal of the one commonly found with the power measuring set of the design that provide fixed signal actuation over the specific frequency range. With the frequency range of the exceed 30 GHz, the actuator fraction frequency factor typically 1/310 decibels. Stated fixed actuators connected with the shear that provide the desired actuation. Makes most frequency radio frequency actuators designed with a handle with a small amount of the radio frequency actuator power extremely susceptible to damage to pick up the overloading test of the radio frequency actuator. You should be either substitute with a known good actuator, perform basic requirements over the actuator itself with the radio frequency substitution method to connect with the radio frequency signal generate power meter establish suitable reference point with the meter by adjusting power output signal generator with the one step of the reference point insert with the radio frequency actuator become the signal generator and the power meter. You determine the actuator by the noting the difference between the power meter reading and initial reference point. Or your decade resistors, also referred to as decayed boxes. Typical of the precision device, depending on the making them out with a decayed resistor, they may be capable of providing you with a selecting resistor range of the value with a small fraction of hundreds of megohms. Decayed resistors are commonly used with the calibration laboratory essential in designing applications likely fixed with a radio frequency actuator may come the decayed resistors capable of handling only a small amount with the current, but they are very limited to represent respect frequency capability commonly used with the DC circuit application. They may be the income special equipment required for the decayed resistor for performing your maintenance of the test. Align with the test decay in resistor. You connect with the standard multimeter with the digital multimeter directly with the resistance terminal. Read the resistance of the meter. This test will indicate the gross of errors of the dedicated resistor, such as the open badly damaged resistor. If you're performing a precision method alignment with a dedicated resistor, have any of the data to its accuracy, you should submit the servicing calibration laboratory figure 222 to the typical dedicated resistor. Are your dedicated step actuator. Decayed actuator is referred to as step actuators commonly device with the design with a standalone pipe of test equipment that integrated with the operational part piece of the electrical equipment. The name is applied with the U of the actuation radio frequency with the incremental step of the legs. Like fixed for radio frequency actuators, you can easily test the using a radio frequency substitution method previously described and views A and B with figure 230 show the type of the decayed actuators. Alright, 50 and 75 ohm termination. 50 termination for the 50 and 75 ohm designed with either feed through out with the impedance matching the radio frequency devices. If the precision resistor sealed with a small plastic metallic metal enclosures are designed with the mount with the radio frequency connected with the encode and keep the feed through the termination of the design radio frequency connected both with also radio frequency with the path through them. They are impedance matching device designed primarily to reduce the voltage standing ratio wave ratio that is produced with the two pieces of equipment is dissimilar with impedance but connected together. You can tap the feed through the termination measure for the resistance between the conductor and shield with either radio frequency connected with the ammeter mentioned above with the sum of the terminations or manufactured loaded device that designed with the terminal radio frequency signal to the ground and perfectly matched with the termination compared with the transmitting antenna with all of the radio frequency with only small amount of the power being reflected back into the transmitting device. The termination load you should either be watting rating and see with the power output of the equipment which if the connector they also remember the type of the termination with the ammeter to read the resistance between the center conductor shield of the radio frequency connector. Alright. Fiber optic testing. Fiber optic is a relatively new type of the transmission media of the figure 231 is depicted with the typical fiber optic cable design. The core of the fiber optic cable, the optical transmission path will carry the data from the optical transmit. The optical receiver. The core is usually made of plastic clad silica with the glass foul usually with a smaller diameter with the PCS cores. More are plastic clad silica cores on the display with the glass core with the have the high actuation 25 decibels kilometer with the precise precision tool connectors extremely suspect with the mechanical damage plastic core with the typically more ragged than the other type of the core with the high actuation with 35 decibels kilometer with the plastic clad silica core with the fairly rugged and have the relatively low actuation 10 decibels kilometer with the fiber optic cable may consist of the one fiber multiple single optical fiber one of the optical killer with fiber optic cable is well suited for the transmission higher speed data over the relatively short distance, therefore virtually immune crosstalk with the interference through the inductance interference with the characters for the metallic cable. The optical fiber buffer tube, strength of the member, and inner jacket, outer jacket. Yeah.
Hey, Huggy. I'll go night-night.
Testing technique principle measure the fiber optic conventional cable are similar. For example, both of them, the cable to expose can be used with the testing relatively unsophisticated equipment can be used with the measure cable parameters for the continuity attenuation, including the equipment optical multimeters, optical power meter. If the only one cable is in, but available, the more sophisticated equipment for the optical time domain reflectometer is used. The following section later to define some of the time optical testing equipment. Or optical time domain reflectometer. The portable optical time domain reflectometer used to check the length of each of the splice, each of the connector entire system. Let's remember the refrigerator. The same method you with the wire law. The optical time domain reflector meter inject the short intense large pulse into the fiber monitor of the reflection called the break and includes the micro crack and discontinues appear as a spike on the optical time domain reflector meter with the left of the discontinued point with the electrically with the distance between the major pole with the trigger with the laser spike with the manufacturer's manual to provide you with a conversion factor figure accurate actual losses and location devices. An oscillope is usually the optical time domain rectifier reflectometer to provide with a visual evidence fiber fault with the connector spice and location of the actuation locators. Location. Optical multimeter. Optical multimeter with the light source with the light in cable any detector fiber cable the transmission level the connector splice the light for the cable to measure from the measure transmission through the short length of the cable compared with the transmission no or longer length. Optical ammeter. The ammeter measures the input versus the optical light with the optical fiber the display the actuator light is based on the comparison known with the unknown cable signal used in manufacturing connecting install cable than simply with a digital voltmeter. Alright, optical power meter. The optical power meter measures the current with the converting light power with the plug-in unit of the light emitting data with the into electric current within some of the with the reading of the power unit with the watts and other with the readout with the absolute power level of the actuation. Some of the units have area with the power sense with the conventional coaxial waveguide system, fiber optical systems, radiometer, photometer meter with the light and power with the watts for the DC unlimited AC response. You have the plug-in sensor lead with the for low light and display with the UV spectrums and fiber optic measurements. Automatic test equipment is equipped with the design and evaluate operational performance of the piece of equipment printed circuit board. Automatic test equipment is specifically troubleshooting of the fault with defective component with the basic automatic test equipment and state-of-the-art computing device in which the software program is specially tailored to meet the requirements of the device being tested. The ANS USM 465 portable C service processor shown in Figure 232 the Navy standard automatic testing equipment for the digital printed circuit boards. The NUSM 465 ports with the support test equipment engineering set program. It provided the on-site screen set testing fault installation of the digital printed circuit board module with the printed circuit board or PSP with the presently available with the more ship with the short intermediate maintenance activity with the micro maintenance stations. PSP comes in the maintenance assistant module spare part kit for the diagnostic kit. The PSP is easy. You have the choice of the printed circuit board connector located with the top of the panel with the test and serve the printed circuit board being tested. The software program provides a magnetic tape cartridge with the lead with the test set automatically for the printed circuit board. Apply the input with the signal appropriate pins while monitoring output signal with the correct indication. The LED display with you with will give the passive with the fail indication. The printed circuit board failed with the operational test. Printed circuit board tells you with the LED with the display with the troubleshooting PSP, taking the printed PSP with the guided program fault with the installation testing with the texting points with the check with the faulty printed circuit board with software program guide with you through the faulty output backward input with the faulty located probe standard 10 mega 10 to 1 oscilloscope probe with the guide probe circuitry software unique recover the cable with the locating faults, feed the loops and can serve with the place probe with the incorrect testing point. Interesting advantage of the testing the PSP that itself with the fault inboard with the PSP and identified with the test open capability. It replaced the faulty circuit board. Good one with the spare part kit to the PSP and identify the fault component with the own PSP circuit board. Hunt Trend Tracker 2000 showing Figure 232 versatile troubleshooting tool you with statically test resistor capacitor inductor diode transistor multi-component circuit with the integrated circuit and built-in features element of the multi-P for the test equipment. The feature itself is lightweight portable makes it 2000 widely used in the troubleshooting. We recommend a review setup of the operation procedure. Neat module 16 introduction test equipment before continuing the chapter. Since the 2000 will cover the depth of the 16 will cover the only most common troubleshooting procedure for the following troubleshooting steps. The Huntrand Tracker 2000 following features multi-testing frequency 2450 to 60 Hz for impedance range low, medium, medium 1, and medium 2, high, automatic range scanning, range control, high, lockout, radio channel alternating range scanning is adjustable, dual polarity pulse generated dynamic testing through three terminal devices, LED indicators, full sectional dual channel, capability easy comparison, large cathode ray to display, easy to operate, controls caution. The device is to be tested must always have the power off, then have the device voltage capacity discharged before the Tracker 2000 of the device. Alright, testing components. Comparison testing components by comparison prefer the measure for the troubleshooting the alternating mode type of mostly commonly used the method mode always technique compare with the good component suspected component. The is accomplished by the channel A of the good known device, the channel B device on the common type of the common as for the illustrated figure 234. The selecting alt button figure 2000 ultimately display the signature for the known device and the device on the tap. Examine the signature difference of the detect with the defective component. Figure 235 figure example of the cathode ray tube on the 2000 while testing the emitter with a good transistor. Figure 236 illustrate the defective transistor on the same test. So that's how the low range of the transistor appear to be good. Sometimes component defective range or more obvious range or one range, and then other suspected devices appear as normal to range and try the other. And then show their signatures. Troubleshooting steps when testing the individual component circuit and parallel resistor diodes and similar values that may cover the defective component appear to go. Therefore, in some cases, electrically isolate with the suspected component with the circuit being tested. Individual components. The best way to do this is desolder all but one suspected component. You should be aware of the devices made with a different manufacturer may appear to have slightly different signatures normally, especially with the different digital integrated circuit that does not necessarily indicate failed device, which occur with the best way to verify the compare outputs of the device under the test equipment specifications to ensure signal and are adequate proper operation. Chapter 2 Summary.